Good morning, everyone. This is RuPaul's Drag Race, Season 12, Episode 11. Man, I can't believe how far we are. One queen show. How did you feel about this episode? I felt it wasn't a bad episode. The queens were amazing. It wasn't a bad premise, but I had a really hard time clicking in. Maybe because there's no big drama that you're trying to be like, this episode so-and-so has to go home. I think most of us knew that Sherry basically made it to the end. At least I assumed it based on they won't be participating in the finale, and maybe I would have been thrilled if that had been a wrong assumption, but we kind of knew that was happening. So I kind of didn't think Sherry was going home, and I don't want anyone else to go home. So maybe it was that. Maybe it's because I have such a visceral negative response to people bombing. I don't think there's anything worse than telling a joke and having people not react. I would rather bomb in a play or a dance than I would with comedy. Maybe that's because of being funny is important to me. Maybe it's because I tried stand-up once and I don't think I bombed. I don't know. I wish I had a video so I could remember it because it was all a blur. And I know that people laugh some, but in my mind it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Anyway, oh, we did get All-Stars. I have a video somewhere on my channel. Go look for it for the All-Stars official announcement. So if you're excited about that, go look at that. Okay, so they did the Puppets challenge, which is good because a lot of people were worried that we would have none of the whatever it was, the box thing that they did would get rid of all of the shady challenges, all of the reading challenges, and basically the puppet challenge is essentially a reading challenge. We are seeing some of Gigi's real weaknesses, and I'll get into that more when we get into the competition. Sherry sounds really shady, based on the way Jackie portrayed her. I mean, I stand by their decision, but it makes me wish, well, I don't know how to word it. Because obviously I wish it didn't happen. Not because of the TV show, but because people suffered. But it really threw off this season. So I'll just put it that way. So Jackie wins. They all go. There's this big drama later on about whether or not, about Jada going last. And I kind of stand firmly between the two of them because Jada clearly said, I don't want to go last. Jackie said, I want you to go last. Jackie has the right to pick it. Jada expressed, well, I guess I don't have a choice, so I'll go last. Jackie did say, well, I don't want any complaints later on, but I kind of feel like that's like saying, I know I'm giving you the worst spot. I know that you have no choice to take it, but you can't ever say anything again. Because if Jada had really pushed it, then it was... So I kind of stand between them where I get Jada's point, but I get Jackie's point. But Jada didn't throw Jackie under the bus for it, just said that she didn't want to go last. She did say she didn't want to go last. When they did the flashback video of what happened, I'm like, yeah, I don't know that that clears things up because it's kind of like, I think Jackie knew that Jada didn't want to do it. But then Jada also didn't complain, but she did. I don't know. I think it's really, for me, it's really up in the air. I see both of their points of view on this. I think that they both, were a little passive. Jackie knew that Jada didn't want it, but didn't push it, but maybe a little passive aggressive on both sides. I don't know. But for me, since Jackie wasn't at risk of going home, I don't really feel that what Jada said on the stage was a problem. But I also get why Jackie was like, hey. So I don't know. Yes. They go up there, they do their things, and I thought the advice, it wasn't bad. It was just always kind of this, I don't know that if I was up there, that advice would have helped me any. And it was funny because I felt like they didn't laugh at things that I thought was funny that later on they did, that the audience laughed at. So it was kind of weird and touch and go to me. And I don't know if they said it in the episode because I wasn't listening super carefully until later on when I wanted to make this point, and then I was like, I don't remember if they said this, which is it was presented as like a stand-up challenge. At least online when they said next week's, I heard a stand-up challenge. This wasn't really stand-up. Most of them were sketches, and that's fine. I love sketches, but if you were talking to a stand-up about if this is stand-up, they would say, no, this is storytelling. They wouldn't really even call Whoopi a stand-up. They would say that she was a storyteller. I love storytellers. David Sedaris is one of my favorite writers, hands down, and he's a storyteller. He actually just reads. If you don't know who he is, you gotta go look him up. He's amazing. But he just tells autobiographical stories that are funny. But he's not a stand-up. But people go and pay. I went and paid this last year to go see him do stand-up, and it was, I mean, not stand-up. Go do a performance at our local college, and it was amazing. And people were like, oh, like it was so funny how excited people were. But they were all like middle-aged white liberals, and so it was a little bit like they were all drinking too much wine and stuff like that. It was just funny. So many NPR tote bags. Anyway, but that's a representation of where I live. Anyway, they had a rough rehearsal. I'm already dreading it because I told you how I feel about it. Jada is a real sweetheart on stage. I mean, she is nailing this arc with like the motions and the pouring her heart out to Whoopi and all that. We do get a nice thing in while they're getting ready where Jada doesn't know who Rose Nyland is. And I admit, it's not a reference that I would assume a young African-American drag queen would be super familiar with. This is not, she was probably not born when it was on. I was really young. And I'm older than her. But I remember being really, really young and watching it. Of course, it is a classic. But not everybody, like, is obsessed with classic sitcoms. I mean, that's fine. So I thought it was funny, but I thought the funniest part is she's like, oh, I assumed it was like a New York drag queen. I just love that idea of a New York drag queen, of Rose Nyland as a New York drag queen. We got the performances. Jackie was higher, better than it was. Crystal, I laughed. My husband walked through the room and it was like, I thought they didn't like it when the drag queens dressed up as men. And I was like, well, I would say that Crystal character had full makeup on, but muscles. It was a very confusing thing. That was my husband's only comment. He doesn't watch the show with me, so I'm even surprised he even knew that much. In general, I'm not, but this is like when the actor finally gets their Oscar and it's like not for their best role. That's how I feel about Crystal's win, which is Crystal has been so overdue for a win. And the cumulative body of work she's done deserves a win. I don't know if this is the one I would have given it to her for. So I don't have a problem with her. Does that make sense? I don't have a problem with her winning, but I wouldn't have given it, like if you had just laid out all the challenges and said, which one did Crystal win for? And I didn't know. This isn't the one I would give her the win for. Anyway, so Crystal won, long overdue. Gigi was rough. That was rough. I'm actually surprised that Gigi's been struggling for a while. I would have put her in the bottom. Heidi is wonderful, a joy. I want to be, if I'm going to be stuck in an elevator with one of the queens, I want it to be her. If someone's going to tell the life story, I want it to be her. If someone is going to be the narrator, I want it to be her. I loved Heidi. I enjoyed every Heidi in the closet, Heidi Aphrodite, Heidi Ho. Whatever she goes by, I love it. But at the same time, I'm not surprised that she was in the bottom. I agree, all the characters kind of sounded alike. She did what I tell you I did when I was bombing, which is you go faster and faster, which doesn't give the audience time to, there's a franticness to it. Not, like I said, this is not my favorite challenge, and this might be a little bit of me carrying my own baggage into it. Like I said, Jada's also was not good. I actually couldn't even look at the screen because it's just, there's a certain rhythm that you can feel they're not going to catch the audience anytime soon, and it's hard to watch. Anyway, they were both in the bottom. Beautiful lip sync, but even though I loved Heidi, I knew she kind of had to go. She had been in the bottom 3 times. Jada had been in the top. Neither one of them really stood out as being significantly. This is where I think it's very fair to look at, unless Jada had just stopped singing, where it would be, you know, it's kind of like I don't know who's gonna do interviews now. We've lost Heidi, so that was really tough. The Untucked, Whoopi had some great advice in Untucked. For anyone who's creative, go back and listen to her again, where she talks about the fact that other people are good and great and awesome and amazing doesn't mean that you can't be. And I think especially we look around and we see what everyone else is doing, and I do it all the time. It's a huge issue for me as a writer. Well, I look around and I see everyone else doing amazing, and I feel like somehow that means that like there was only so much amazingness out in the world, and everybody else is using up my share. And that's just not how that works. We can, you know, I do believe a rising tide lifts all boats, which means that just people can be awesome and you can get kind of caught up in that wave, and more drag queens succeeding means more drag queens. There's now more of an audience for more drag queens. So I thought that was some really good advice. I know Whoopi is an unlikely star and EGOT from we know how critical the industry is for totally baseless reasons, where they overlook legitimate talent because of connections, traditional values of what's attractive, traditional values of what a woman should be or a man. These stereotypes kind of hurt everyone who doesn't neatly fit in that box, and most of us don't. Most of us have all sorts of qualities that fall outside. And of course, so many of the qualities are contradictory that no one really can fit in the box. I mean, we're going to be honest, very few people fit in the box, and the box is crushing anyway. So Whoopi's a great example of someone who had to push and strive, has had amazing talent, deserves it, totally deserves it. Oddly enough, as a child, one of my favorite movies was Jumpin' Jack Flash. I have never seen the end because this is back in the Stone Age when they used to, my mom would record movies for us. And then when in the summer on vacation, we would have all these VCR tapes to watch, and I watched the Fraggle Rock, I watched Labyrinth, which explains my confused feelings about men because it's David Bowie in those tight pants. I watched The Last Unicorn a million times. I watched the movie Clue. Those were all the movies I was watching on repeat. There's a few others in there, of course, but the first half of Jumpin' Jack Flash was on that list, so I've watched that a dozen times. She is a tremendous star. I don't know why this has become a Whoopi appreciation episode when this is about drag queens, but I think that she is a great model for drag queens who, you know, within the drag world, this is all very acceptable, but I remember Trixie was talking about that even in gay culture, there's some harmful stereotypes about drag performers, and I've heard them kind of make those references in the past. I know nothing about this besides what they say about how even in, like, when you're in drag, it's great, but when you're out of drag, people think it's weird that you do drag or whatever. So I thought she was a great. I didn't get all of her advice, but I loved her. Anyway, back to this. We are at a kind of confusing part for the series, which is if they do what they normally do, which is put 4 drag queens through, and we know that Sherry Pie was disqualified, then if that holds up, we know that whatever happens in the next episode, there's 2 possible routes. One is they eliminate a drag queen. I'm gonna guess, my guess would be Jackie, based on the ability that she hasn't got the footing that she needs. Crystal's on the way up. Jada had to stumble, but has been super strong overall. We assume that Sherry Pie made it through. Who am I missing? And I'm going to assume Gigi made it through. Although, if Jackie's a strong week, Gigi has floundered for several weeks, could just not make the cut. But there's 2 options. Let's say they go down to 4 drag queens. Let's assume there's 3 options. One is Sherry was eliminated, in which case those 4 queens are going to go through the finale, no big deal. Second option is Sherry is one of those 4 and they eliminate someone else. One option is they just take the remaining 3 and put them through to the finale, and the other option is whatever drag queen gets eliminated comes back and replaces Sherry. So, I guess there's actually, I was going to say that this next episode doesn't matter, but there's actually 3 options, and they all end up with different, 2 of the 3 options have different results. So, I guess we don't know what happens in the next episode. Sorry, I guess I should have thought that through before I did the video. Anyway, tell me, what do you think's going to happen? Does Sherry get eliminated and the 4 queens go to the finale? Does someone else get eliminated and 4 queens go to the finale and they eliminate Sherry, so only 3 queens go to the finale, or do 4 queens go to the finale and the loser replace Sherry? Is that clear? Who do you think is going to be cut next episode? I think it's very likely that if it's going to be someone, it would be Gigi or Jackie, just because of the track record coming up. But truthfully, it could be anyone. Jada had a bad week. We've seen people have 2 bad weeks in a row and go home even though they're the front runner. We've seen Crystal, I think, is getting stronger and stronger, but they could really hate her next thing and just let her go. It could be anyone. So there you go. Any other comments? And jump over to my All Stars video and tell me what you think, who you're excited about. Okay, bye.